In Haiti, as the Security Council made its trip, various people approached the press that was part of the trip and said very clearly that they interpreted what Amina Mohammed and Mr. Guterres had said as a retrenchment, as a stepping back from the idea of possible individual reparations, that was in the November report by then Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. And they said one gentleman, 57 years old, who has had cholera and his spouse died, said, community projects are useless to me, do nothing for me. And I guess I just wanted to understand more clearly. I was left, Farhan ended up saying that there's still some consideration of individual. That's not really the way that I read the thing. What is the current thinking of the Secretary General on attempting to make at least some type of reparatory payment to people whose relatives got cholera and died and have to educate their children?
First of all, our hearts go out to all the people who suffered from the cholera epidemic, either personally or through the loss of loved ones. I think the Secretary General and the Deputy Secretary General were very clear in outlining the way forward. The focus will be initially on a community-based project, and we're taking things one step at a time. But I can't really go any further than what the Secretary General himself said.
But he seemed to say that there was never, I mean, maybe I misunderstood it, but I've looked at the transcript, that there was not, individual was not being considered. And I guess I'm trying to say to you that
things are progressing. We're taking things one step at a time.
Now that the UN bribery case, as it's described regarding Ng Lap Seng, has begun and it began yesterday in Lower Manhattan, there's a filing dated June 25th. I know that that says, this is the quote: "The UN declined to identify to the government all individuals who were interviewed in connection with the preparation of the report," called the UN Task Force report. And this is being used by Ng Lap Seng to say he didn't bribe anyone because everyone bribes everyone at the UN, basically, is his defense. And so now portions of the UN Task Force report are not going to be produced to the jury because the government says, the Justice Department says, the UN declined to identify, i.e. didn't cooperate. So I wanted to know, I know I've asked you before about, and you've said, at least I took you to say, that the UN is fully cooperating with the authorities. And this is a statement in a letter by the government to the court saying that that's not the case. How do you explain it? On what basis did the UN not provide this information as requested by the government?
We've cooperated extensively to facilitate the proper course of justice in this case. The proceedings are ongoing, and I'm not going to make any comments while these proceedings are ongoing.
Right, but I mean, this was a statement involving now.
No, I understand.
Right? Do you see why it seems contradictory?
You asked what you asked, and I said what I said.
Right, because without this,
I've said what I've had to say. Olga.
Back to in this situation in the Rif region of Morocco, on Eid, there were more arrests made in this Al Hoceima, and people were blocked from actually even traveling to the town. The king has said that his ministers can no longer go on vacation due to a failure to implement what's being demanded by the protesters there. I'm just wondering, is DPA any closer to either saying something, doing something?
I don't have anything.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you about Burundi. On this issue of vetting, which it was said a lot that vetting is taking place, there's a big controversy now in Burundi that one of the major Gahomera, who was charged of being part of the 12/12 massacre, is being trained as we speak today, part of a UN pre-deployment training in Bujumbura, and the documents have been made public. So they're wondering what vetting takes place. Maybe it may be for Amazon. Can you Gahomera?
If you give me the name, email me the name, and I will have.
And there's one other one that's related. It appears that one of the individuals repatriated from Central African Republic, facing OIOS charges of sexual abuse there, Major Sergeant Zephyrin, has just been redeployed to AMISOM. And I know that AMISOM is under the African Union, but is it your understanding
I don't have access to these individual cases. What is clear is if anyone is alleged to have committed sexual abuse, they need to face justice. But I will look at these two individual cases. Thank you.
Or in the UN briefing room, where the spokesman jocularly refuses to answer basic questions about prosecution of bribery, redeployment of rapists, silence on protests, the UN must be repaired. And this individual speaking here is the one that threw the press that asked the questions that you've just seen out of the briefing room and out of the UN, putting an Egyptian state media, circus-like, that's never asked a question, in the place, so that inner city press requires minders. To cover the General Assembly right now can't do it without a minder. It must change, and we will pursue it.